It's absolutely draft season when we're spending 12 minutes talking about a swing guard tackle that's probably going to be a backup in the NFL. We have to spend a lot of
Damn.
time on this next guy, Ryan. Dude, I think that Taliese Fuaga got better. Taliese Fuaga at
He
a
got a lot
hulking
better.
6'6", 330 pounds. I loved him. I gave him a top 50 grade in summer scouting. I
Yep.
watched him, and 5 minutes in, I'm like, oh, my man got so much better, and he was already good. I already knew he was a good athlete for his
Yes.
size and for being a
Yes.
top heavy guy. He moved well, but I don't know. There's just there's a little more power. There's a little bit more pop. There's a little bit more spatial awareness and understanding of how to play the position a little bit better. We'll break that down in a second. Um, I don't remember what exactly, if there was any big background on him that we had from over the summer.
Now he's a Washington State player in high school. I mean, he was only a 3-star recruit coming out of high school, played both sides of the football, was a defensive lineman, 10.5 tackles for loss, 5 sacks. As a
Can't
senior,
imagine him as a defensive lineman. That's scary.
played the Polynesian Bowl. I mean, so like he's got a pretty like basic background. But he came in as a 2020 kid, so he's got the 2020 COVID year if he chooses to use it. I mean, technically, Taliese Fuaga could go back to school if he felt like it. I don't think there's any chance that he does ultimately,
Yeah.
because the Senior Bowl is very high on him, and NFL scouts, to my understanding, are also very high on him. So a pretty general background, man. He's been starting to right tackle for Oregon State over the last couple of years. Quietly, Oregon State has had one of the better offensive lines in college football over the last 2
Yeah.
years. And Fuaga, because they have the 11 good kid at center, is a pretty good player. Jonathan Gray at left tackle is going to be a
Yeah.
developmental guard at the next level. So they got some guys there, man. They had Brandon Skipper or Kipper, excuse me, Brandon Kipper a couple years ago. That's I think was drafted potentially in the late day 3, I
Mm.
believe, at right tackle. So they've had some guys, man. They've had some guys over the last couple years.
It's so goddamn funny. You're watching tape, and then you just watch DJU throw the most back-breaking throw, that like a obvious dropped interception from a line. There was one throw I watched him, and there was not a single Oregon State receiver. And I'm like, why am I watching this? I wish I didn't have to watch DJU. I'm so
It's
scarred
it's
by
okay, man.
watching DJU.
Hey, remember
I'm
when
going.
you tried to talk him up a couple years ago? Remember that? Remember when you were
Well,
like,
that was him as a true junior or whatever he
yeah,
was, and he was having problems, but you saw the tools and you're like, okay,
yeah,
maybe if this guy comes out and he looks a little bit better and his receivers are better. And he
sure,
has been so stagnant since he's been a freshman. I've never seen something like this where a guy hasn't progressed. But Taliese Fuaga absolutely
yes,
has progressed. He is, to the cliche, a dancing bear. He moves really well for his size. His lower half isn't as filled out as his upper half, but it doesn't really matter because he gets fantastic leg drive. I think
yeah,
his progression is very similar to that of Darnell Wright, and I would not be shocked. I'm going to say it right now. I wouldn't be shocked if Taliese Fuaga does not end up being a top 15 pick when it's all said and done. I think that he is on that type of a projection. As a run blocker, as I said, great leg drive. He is very
yep,
physical. He plays with really good angles. He is an eliminator as a run blocker. I also love guys that look for work. He's a guy who's just like, all right,
yep,
who's next? Who wants to get hit next? Pass protection, fantastic. I have no issues with the way that he pass protects. I think that sometimes he shows some weakness against speed rushers because he's ultimately, for a 330, 340 pounder, it's not going to be super easy to keep up with these fast guys. But the
sure,
thing that I was in awe of, and I wrote down a couple plays that I'm going to clip off later and post on Twitter. There were a number of plays where he delivers a punch in pass protection or as a run blocker, and guys just crumple. That stuff
okay,
does not happen. That is rare power that it looks easy, and he completely demolishes guys. There was one play, I think it was like number 4 for UCLA. He's one of their speed rushers, and he was going head to head with a guard, and he delivers this punch, and he hits him so hard that his chest just completely bends, and he's out of the play immediately. Like, just completely destroys this poor kid because he punches him so hard in the chest. That to me is uncoachable. That is stuff
yep.
that you're not going to find. And I think immediate plug and play right tackle. He has gotten so much better after already coming into the summer with a very good grade.
The UCLA game was pretty fun, huh? It's a pretty fun time. I watched that
You
one as
you
well.
watch that in
Fun.
Utah, and you're thinking to
Yeah.
yourself, he's going to struggle, or not struggle, but show some signs of weakness, and there is not a second of it.
Yeah, UCLA was really impressive because they got the left tackle a ton in that game, Jonathan Gray. Like he had a little bit
Mm.
of a tough time against the Murphys and what's his name? Latu actually didn't
Number
play a ton against Gray. He played more against Fuaga from what I saw, at least.
Yeah,
I don't know, but yeah. Joe, I want to flash us back to summer scouting. Do you remember who told you to watch Taliese Fuaga?
you did.
I did, man. I did. Which
And
somehow
I'm glad that you did.
I remember I remember he finished as my OT6 in the summer. He had just missed my top
Really?
5 because the tools are awesome, but I wanted to see a year of development because I still thought there were some things as far as hand placement and just generally changing direction and body reshaping that I wanted to see happen for Taliese Fuaga. And so far this year, I mean, honestly, I one of the most improved prospects overall is Taliese Fuaga, in my opinion. I think you saw it was one of the first reps in the UCLA game where it was against Layatu Latu, and he basically just did a pure speed rush, and then, but it's crazy how good Fuaga is out of his stance, isn't it? Like you don't really get
Yes.
around him very easily. But then he sets, and then Latu tries to hit an inside counter on him, and Fuaga just easily changes direction, just easily, and then works back inside and is able to cut off the inside track. And like that stuff for 6'6, 325 plus pounds, that's rare stuff, man. Like guys don't
Yeah.
really typically change direction like that, especially in a 45 or vertical set, because I think it was just a 45-degree set on that one. But like that, it's hard, right? Playing in reverse a ton. And he does that. And but his best part of his game, I think, and the most biggest improvement in his game, his hands are great now, man. They're fantastic. Like he actually gave Latu a little bit of early hands on that rep. When Latu swiped, he was able to just kind of put hand fight and get his hands back in proper positioning and work that counter. And I'm just like, dang, dude, like that's advanced hand
Yeah.
usage for a guy that I thought was a little bit raw in 2022 as far as using his hands. So his hands are fantastic now. He's a really good athlete, and he still has the moments. My favorite thing ever is seeing him though either work as in screen game or an outside zone to his side, where it's just like,
Yes. Yeah.
dude, you should not be able to move like that. Like very Penny Sewell ish athletically, as far as that dude's massive. He's huge, but for whatever reason,
Yeah.
he just looks fantastic in space. Like there's
I
something
don't
there.
think he's not as bendy because Penny Sewell is like an
Oh, well, Penny
unreal
Sewell's
level
a
of bendy.
freak. I mean, there's a reason he went
Yeah.
top 5, right? Like he's a
Right.
freak. So
That actually, I will say, if we were to pinpoint, because we're trying to be balanced here in our evaluation and not just completely talk up a kid, he's not super flexible. He's definitely built to play right tackle. I wouldn't throw him at left tackle. I don't think that he would
I
succeed
actually
as
think
much
he
at
would.
left tackle.
I think he would suck in no, not suck. That's a very hard. I think he would struggle. I think he would struggle inside a guard because I don't think he is great
Yeah.
hip bend. I don't think that he's going to play with like low pads all the time. He's just a massive dude to get around, and when he gets it on a track out in space, kid moves phenomenally well. I'm not surprised at all that he played defensive line in high school because like my guy can move, man. He's a really talented athlete.
I also think that he's scheme versatile, but as we've seen against Oregon State, he's best suited and I think will be most successful in a zone scheme just because he moves well. He gets out of his stance easy. There's really not a lot of slow down or pick up when he needs to. He just charges forward, hits one guy, hits the next guy.
He's
I love that stuff.
he's a dancing bear, man. And I feel like we
I
say
know
that
it's a
too
cliche.
often. It's such a
We
cliche.
don't
It really
actually.
is.
We
But
usually don't.
yeah,
I
we
think
actually don't.
that
You're right. We don't say it, but like I feel like you hear it a lot, and it's like it's such a cliche for just saying a big guy is fat, but it's fun to watch him move, right? But like this kid is not fat though. He is just a massive young man. But you look at him and you get quick assumptions to like his foot quickness isn't going to be great. He's not going to be overly flexible. He's just going to kind of be a
Mm,
stiff board, right? But then you watch him and you're like, nah, like Duke can move. You know who? Here's probably a better comparison, although he's not nearly as big. But Jordan Mailata that plays with the Eagles is the same thing. Where like I look at Jordan Mailata, I'm like, that dude's going to be stiff as a board. He's not going to be able to bend. He's not going to be able to move and be able to counter inside with his footwork. And then you can't get around him or get by him because his foot quickness is so rare for a player his size. So yeah, the dancing bear thing is way overplayed, but Taliese Fuaga is a dancing bear. That kid's athleticism pops immediately as soon as you watch him.
I kind of like that Darnell Wright comp the more that I think about it, because the both of them are, you don't like that they're both very top heavy the way that they're built. They're both
I think Fuaga
mauling.
is a much better athlete than Darnell Wright.
Okay.
Much
Okay.
better athlete.
Well, for that reason, I think he can still
Yeah.
end up going in the top 10. But one other
Oh,
final
wait,
note
wait.
that we
Is
didn't.
this a take real quick? Can I make a take real quick?
Yeah,
He
go
is a
ahead.
much better he's a much better prospect than Darnell Wright, who just went 10th overall in the 2023 NFL draft. Much better player. Much better. I would
I
say
think
that.
with positional value, I really don't think that it is a ridiculous thing to say. Just to simplify it, Taliese Fuaga as a top 25 grade for me, but I believe because of positional value and the general lack of capability to find good offensive tackles, this is actually a pretty good tackle class. The more that we get
It is.
exposure to
It's
it, at the
deep.
very least, yes, the bad players or not the bad players, the weaker players at least have a lot of traits which we usually don't get.
Yep.
This year, though, I think that Fuaga has solidified himself as a top 15 pick. And I think eventually there's going to be a team after maybe some of these quarterbacks go. And if I'm going to say this, I wouldn't be shocked if he doesn't go before Olu Fashanu. I think that some teams might prefer him because you know what? Fashanu hasn't been totally great. I have not evaluated him yet. I have not given a grade to him. It's not going to change from the preseason, but I could totally see some teams talking themselves into saying Fashanu struggled a little bit this year.
I have a take on Fashanu, Joe, but I'm going to wait until we do the
Okay.
Olu Fashanu show. So I'm not going to put
Okay.
that one out in the Runiverse. I don't think he has a chance to go higher than Fashanu because Fashanu is a true left tackle in the next level, and that's more valuable than a right tackle, right? But Taliese Fuaga is a very good player. I also, and this is the one that I actually thought I was going to be higher on than you. I have a top 25 grade on him as well. This kid's a first round player, like just flat out first round player. Stamp it. If he goes in the second round, so you got tremendous value.
Mm.
I don't. He is a Pro Bowl level right tackle in the next level if developed properly, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Like consecutive Pro Bowler. Like I think he's that good. I think he's like I said. I think he is a better player than Darnell Wright, who went 10th overall last year. Now, I'm not necessarily here to say that Taliese Fuaga has the chance to go number 10 overall in the 2024 NFL draft, because I also think it's just a better draft class this year than it was last year. I think it's deeper, especially. But if he goes in the top 20, I wouldn't be shocked. If he goes in the first round, I'd be like, yep, that's where he deserves to go. Like, there's no doubt about it. This kid's a starting high caliber right tackle in the next level, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm really excited about him. But also, by the way, you shouldn't you did this the whole summer. You and I have kind of
What I
caught
do?
up in our we've caught up in our how we evaluate guys, and I think that we're starting to get to the point where you and I see players very similarly.
Yes.
Because I've watched enough tape now where I'm starting to pick up up on a lot more things. Because the first year we did it, I said this before over the summer, didn't really totally know what I was looking at, and I was still trying to
Sure.
figure stuff out and feel how certain guys fit into certain round buckets. And now
Yeah.
I've really figured it out. So what you need to stop. You need to stop being surprised. Like, oh, I thought I was going to be higher on this guy than you, and then we end up having the
That's the fun
same
part,
grade.
man. It's the fun part, though. It's the fun part, you know. Like
Yeah.
we just have. I like having a difference of opinion with guys at times. All right, it's the diverse
Well, we did on
understanding.
Coleman. You were higher on Coleman, which I
Little bit.
tried to tell you, and you're
But
like, no,
I
that's
thought
not the case.
I thought we had I thought we had like similar
Yeah.
remarks on Coleman though. Like, did we see him
Yeah.
that much differently? Really? Like, I didn't think we saw him that much
No.
differently. Just value maybe a little differently. But
Right.
yeah,
Hey man, we should change the name of the show to the Guys Know Ball podcast, man, because we
I
actually
mean
know
we're
football,
already
unlike some of these other people that do
we're
draft evaluations.
we're already called Hack City on YouTube, so why not, man? Just play it fully into the thread, I guess.
At Joe DeLeone at Rise and Draft, folks. Thanks for tuning in. We'll be back next week with another scouting report episode. Make sure you check out Bet Online for all of your sports betting needs. For anything that I do betting related, I go on over to betonline.ag and I use promo code BELIEVE50. BetOnline has all of the latest updated odds for the NFL and college football seasons. Anything you need, whether it's futures, live in-game betting, no matter what, your football betting needs are met at Bet Online. And again, make sure you use that promo code BELIEVE50, BLEAV50 to get a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet Online, where the game starts.